And I know that you've mentioned before from a safety standpoint, if it's maybe a little bit wet out that day, you can maybe back the pressure off a little bit, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And another thing I think that's worth mentioning for people that are watching this that are interested in the Empire State Ride, a lot of hills, going down hills. Safety wise, what's your recommendation to somebody as you're going down a hill and you're getting a pretty good speed? What's the most stable position?
Well, the safest position is having your hands in the drops, not on the hoods, or obviously not at the top, but in the drops itself, because your hands can't really slip off of the drops, and you have a lot more. You could have more control of your bike, and but besides your hand position, you definitely want to control your speed, and not go out of your comfort zone on the speed. You can, as the week progresses, you'll get faster going downhill. And in fact, as if you do the 22-week program and you ride hills and you ride them a lot, you're going to progressively get a little better at descending and feel a little more comfortable. But I always say, never try to follow somebody on a downhill that is going faster than you are comfortable with. Just let them go and meet them later or something like that. But downhill, just be conservative and feel comfortable and confident in what you're doing at that moment.
I know something that you've mentioned before too is as far as hand placement, safety wise, that you said that there should always be a certain amount of contact with your hands, and that you have seen riders in the past who maybe are riding like this, or they kind of got one hand off and they're waving. So what's your recommendation real quick on how you can make sure that you're always being safe with your hand placement?
Yeah, one of the things that can happen in cycling, especially when you're riding for this many hours in a day, and you're looking around, you might be talking to somebody that you're riding next to, you might be admiring, some of the scenery and stuff, and you're not thinking about what you're doing. And so if you hit, some kind of an obstacle that is just going to kind of like stop the bike temporarily, not a big one, and not a crash. I'm not talking about a crash. I'm talking you hit a rock or a pothole. Your hands, unless you have your thumbs, like if you have your hands on the tops, you need to have what I call the hook. You got to have your thumbs underneath, so that if you're looking around and you're doing that and that comes up, the handlebars are going to come into your hands instead of having your hands on the top, and your hands are just going to slip off, and then you're going to crash. You're going to lose your hands. So when you're on the tops, it's best to have your thumbs underneath, and then when you're on the hoods, it's best to have your pinky kind of underneath the handlebar. So in some way you have like a hook.
So it's kind of just your pinkies would be in like this, because I think yours are off the screen just barely. Yeah.
Yeah. Your pinkies are kind of like underneath and grabbing like the bar. It's kind of like creating the same hook that your thumb is over the top. And the same thing, so that if you hit something, you're going to be able to hold on with your pinkies. You're going to have that reaction, versus if you're just on the top like this, you're just going to come off of the hoods. And of course, if you're in the drops, then that's an automatic hook, right? So in the drops, you can never lose your hands, from an incident like that. So always have the hook, either the pinky or the thumb.